Not all exercises are created equal, especially as we get older. And while popular mass builders like the squat, bench, and deadlift are great, we don't actually need to perform these exercises to maximize muscle growth. In fact, as I've gotten older, heavy squats and deadlifts started wearing me down, hurting my joints, slowing recovery, and reducing my ability to build muscle. But once I shifted my focus to smarter, more joint-friendly movements, my results actually improved. More muscle, less pain, and better longevity in the gym. And that's exactly what I want to share with you in this video. The only 5 exercises you need to get jacked after 40. These are the essential movements that deliver size, stability, and safety without wasting time on fluff. We'll cover what makes each pattern crucial and highlight some of the best variations so you can apply them to your own training. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Exercise number 1, Penlay Row. While traditional barbell rows can be great, they can become problematic, especially as we age. As you get stronger, maintaining strict form with a standard barbell row becomes increasingly difficult, often leading to the use of momentum. In fact, this 2009 study found that bent over rows activate the lower back 13 to 30% more than other variations. The Penlay Row, however, offers a more lower back friendly alternative. Unlike other rowing variations, each rep starts from a dead stop, eliminating momentum and enforcing stricter form. This subtle adjustment leads to better muscle engagement, cleaner reps, and reduced stress on the lower back. According to this study, published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research, the bent over row produces high activation throughout the entire back, from the upper traps down to the lats and lower back. Given its similarities, it's safe to assume that the Penlay Row is also highly effective at targeting the entire back musculature. Not only that, but because the arms start in a greater degree of shoulder flexion compared to traditional barbell rows, the Penlay Row likely places a greater stimulus on the lats, as their primary function is shoulder extension. To maximize gains in both upper back thickness and lat width, here are a few key cues to keep in mind. First, allow your scapula to move. According to this study, the traps are best activated when the scapula is allowed to both retract and protract. Given the similar orientation and location of the upper back muscles, it's reasonable to assume they also activate to a greater degree. So, when performing the Penlay Row, make sure to reach for the floor at the bottom of each rep to accentuate the stretch. Next, keep the bar aligned with your chest. Pulling the bar towards your sternum or slightly lower ensures optimal lat activation. One study found that when working in a sagittal plane, the lats have their best leverage for humeral extension from shoulder level downward. And lastly, maximize shoulder extension. To fully engage the lats and rear delts, focus on driving your elbows past your torso at the top of the movement. By implementing these cues, you'll optimize your Penlay Row for both strength and muscle growth while minimizing strain on your lower back. Exercise number 2, low incline press. A flat press can understimulate the upper pecs, while a steep incline shifts too much emphasis to the shoulders. This slight incline ensures the pecs handle most of the load while still allowing for heavy pressing and progressive overload via better pressing mechanics. One study published in the International Journal of Exercise Science found that while both flat and incline presses produce similar growth in the lower and mid pecs, incline pressing led to significantly greater upper pec hypertrophy. This makes it the superior choice for overall chest development. Another study showed that as lifters pressed heavier, pec activation remained high, but anterior delt and triceps engagement increased to handle the extra load. This confirms that a low incline press builds not just the chest, but also the shoulders and triceps effectively. Compared to a traditional bench press, a slight incline allows for better scapular positioning, reducing impingement risk, making this variation more stable and shoulder friendly. This is likely due to 2 key factors: pressing from a slightly externally rotated position and the way the load pushes down on the arms, naturally tightly keeping the scapula pinned against the bench. This combination optimizes joint positioning and enhances execution, making the movement feel smoother on the shoulders. If you want to build a bigger chest while keeping your shoulders healthy, this should be a staple in your program. For best results, set the bench to a low incline around 15 to 30 degrees. For regional emphasis on the pecs, adjust your elbow position to match muscle fiber orientation. A tucked position shifts the emphasis to the clavicular pecs, while a more flared position targets the sternocostal head. As you press, follow a converging motion by bringing your biceps together. Even with a fixed hand position, using this mental cue enhances pec engagement by reinforcing their primary function, horizontal adduction. For equipment selection, dumbbells allow free, natural motion and a deeper stretch. The Smith machine provides guided movement and safety. However, my favorite option is a converging machine press. This combines the benefits of a press and a fly while maintaining constant tension. Whichever variation you choose, pressing at a low incline is a must if you want to maximize upper body development. Exercise number 3, Romanian deadlifts. Unlike other deadlift variations that shift some of the load to the quads and spinal erectors, the RDL is a pure hip hinge movement. It keeps the tension exactly where it belongs on the muscles that drive hip extension without forcing your lower back to take on unnecessary strain. One 2020 systematic review comparing deadlift variations found that Romanian deadlifts produced high levels of hamstring and glute activation while reducing spinal erector recruitment compared to other deadlift variations. Thus, it delivers the same posterior chain activation as other deadlifts without the excessive axial fatigue that can hinder recovery and limit long-term progress. With less activation of the spinal erectors, the glutes and hamstrings handle more of the mechanical load without overloading the lower back. The spinal erectors still work to maintain a neutral spine, but this reduced involvement lowers the risk of them becoming a weak link, making the movement both safer and more effective for long-term progress. That said, the Romanian deadlift is only as effective as your ability to hinge properly. Hinge at the hips by pushing your butt back while keeping your hips high and your knees bent slightly. Lower the weight along your legs, stopping when you feel a strong stretch in your hamstrings. Next, remember to brace your core to enhance glute activation and maintain stability. According to this study, when the abdominals are deliberately activated during hip extension, this increases gluteus maximus activation. On the way up, focus on driving your hips forward and contracting your glutes and hamstrings to return to a standing position. For the best RDL variations, I recommend using dumbbells. This variation keeps the weight closer to your center of mass, reducing spinal loading and minimizing strain on the erectors. They also allow for a more natural grip, making them more comfortable while still effectively overloading the glutes and hamstrings. Exercise number 4, leg presses. The barbell squat is a proven lower body mass builder, but it comes with trade-offs. The problem with free weight squats is that stability and the technical difficulty become limiting factors. Your lower back, core, and stabilizers fatigue before your quads are fully taxed, forcing you to cut sets short or compromise form. A more stable squat, such as a leg press, allows for heavier loading, better quad activation, and greater hypertrophy without unnecessary fatigue. Since the Romanian deadlift already hits the glutes and hamstrings, the focus here is on choosing the best squat variation for targeting the quads. The leg press is ideal for this because it minimizes hip involvement and maximizes knee flexion, ensuring that the quads take on the majority of the load. The leg press keeps your back fully supported against the pad, meaning all movement and muscle activation are concentrated in the lower body. This setup ensures that you're essentially only loaded from the hips down, eliminating the need for core and spinal stabilization. Not only that, but with a guided path, you can push closer to failure, drive harder through knee extension, and overload your quads more effectively. The result is more tension on the target muscle, better mechanical stress, and ultimately greater hypertrophy. But more stability doesn't just improve hypertrophy. An externally stable setup means less wear and tear on your joints, a lower risk of technique breakdown, and the ability to train hard without excessive systemic fatigue, which prolongs recovery. By taking stability out of the equation, you can focus purely on progressive overload, lifting heavier, and getting bigger quads without unnecessary strain on your joints or nervous system. To execute the leg press for maximum quad growth, recline the back pad as much as possible while ensuring you're not sliding off as you press. This minimizes hip flexion, making it more knee flexion dominant. Then, place your feet lower on the platform to further increase knee flexion and bias the quads. Positioning them too high can shift the work to the glutes and adductors. From there, lower the weight until your knees are at least 90 degrees or deeper if your mobility allows. Research suggests training at longer muscle lengths leads to better hypertrophy, so go as low as you comfortably can. And exercise number 5, seated Smith machine overhead press. While pressing in the horizontal plane builds your chest, vertical pressing is essential for maximizing front and lateral delt hypertrophy. First, free weight overhead pressing demands balance and coordination, which limits load and shifts activation away from the delts. The Smith machine eliminates these stability requirements via the sled for guided movement, letting you press heavier while keeping focus on your shoulders. One 2013 study found that the Smith machine overhead press led to the highest front delt activation among pressing variations. And unlike free weights, where failing a rep can mean getting pinned or losing control, the Smith machine allows you to rack the bar instantly. This lets you train harder and push closer to failure with absolute confidence. Second, pressing from a seated position allows for greater pressing power. According to this study, seated overhead presses allow for roughly 10% greater pressing strength compared to standing variations. Simply put, seated overhead pressing with a Smith machine eliminates energy leaks, letting you move heavier loads and fully hammer your delts. Plus, unlike traditional overhead pressing, which emphasizes shoulder flexion, pressing in the frontal plane introduces shoulder abduction into the movement. This increases mid-delt involvement, making the movement more effective for complete shoulder development. One 2020 study by Campos et al. Found that seated overhead presses with a pronated grip activated the mid-delts nearly as much as lateral raises. For best results with this movement, keep your elbows flared out to your sides, as this forces greater mid-delt recruitment. Next, control your range of motion. According to this study on shoulder moment arms, the front delts generate the most leverage at around 120 degrees of shoulder flexion, while the clavicular pecs take over at lower angles. To keep the focus on your delts, avoid bringing the weight all the way down to the clavicle. And if you're still struggling to build a jacked physique, I want to help you achieve the best body of your life in the next 16 weeks. I've worked with thousands of men just like you, helping them burn fat, build muscle, and optimize their hormones to build their best body ever. But I only take on a handful of serious clients at a time. If you're committed and ready to make a real change, now is the time to take action. If that's you and you're ready to transform your body in the next 16 weeks, click the link below, fill out the short application form, and I'll personally reach out via text or email to discuss the next steps. Did you find this video helpful? If so, click the like button below, as it'll truly help out the channel. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe for more videos, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next one. Peace.